You receive an impulse of renunciation. But you only become a tantric when this impulse is brought with you into life. And the practical encouragement that this seeking for the supreme asceticism is sort of offering is to bring after every practice your state along with you. Also, as you practice, embrace the world, but especially so, bring that state into the world. Welcome back to Karma Yoga Interpretations, comments on the Bhagavad Gita. Today we picked by lottery chapter 5 for the first time, chapter 5, verse number 3. And chapter 5, verse number 3 goes like this. Well, it says something in Sanskrit that I will not embarrass myself to read, but the translation is, "He who does not hate anything, nor expects anything, know him to be an eternal renouncer. For one who is free from duality, almighty armed, he happily casts off bondage." I will repeat.
Repeat.
He who does not hate anything, nor expects anything, know him to be an eternal renouncer. For one who is free from duality, almighty armed, he happily casts off bondage.
So, I hope that your heart is also burning when you read that, or when you hear that. Basically, what Krishna says here is that once you stop this game of, here he says, hatred and expectations, in other translations it's also that he doesn't desire, but once you stop the polar game of aversion and attraction, wanting some things and pushing away other things, this grace of renunciation appears. The entire Gita, masters like Ramakrishna and Nityananda, they said the entire Gita can be understood if you repeat the word Gita many times. If you repeat Gita, 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 you hear Tagi. Tagi means renunciation. Basically, this is the entire message, both of the Gita and of the entire Mahabharata. Renounce the world, not outwardly, you still act in the world, but inwardly renounce the world. Why you renounce the world? Because then you attain transcendence, you attain freedom. The game of the world does not hold the soul in any way. You can live in a war zone, in the most wonderful area, with the most wonderful life, with the most horrible life. Your soul will not be bound to anything if you don't play the game of attraction and aversion. You see, when you watch a football match and you don't care about the football at all, you don't care who wins, it doesn't move you, you do not identify. But once you care about someone, the whole game has meaning. Now it's my cousin, it's my husband, it's my friend playing in that team. And then the whole life of football, which was until then meaningless, receives meaning, and you enter the roller coaster of football. The entire universe, according to Krishna and to the wise men of the East, is similar to that. The seer, the soul, Purusha, the witness, doesn't need to be actually influenced by anything of this world. And once you stop playing the horizontal game of polarity by wanting some things from this world and pushing away some other things, once you stop the horizontal movement and it pauses into a zero spot, not plus, not minus, and you have a longing for the absolute, you will start to rise, inevitably. And that rising, eventually up to the destination of non-duality, happens very lightly in this spirit of renunciation. It's completely miraculous. Now, when people hear this, they say, oh, it's impossible, it's impossible, it's impossible. Have an hour a day. 1 hour a day in which you completely renounce the world. 1 hour a day in which you have no aversion to anything and no desire to anything. When you will see the supreme satisfaction of total renunciation. With that renunciation, transcendence occurs, and the sweetness, the mesmerizing, all-fulfilling sweetness of transcendence fulfills you in such degrees that you would never want to have more preferences in manifestation.
The state that Ria basically describes is what the Tantrics call the supreme asceticism. Also, culturally speaking, when the Gita came to be in India, there was a clear idea of what a renunciant is, what a renouncer is. It was the idea of removing yourself from the world, and that was a practice. It's not just like an invention. It was a very common practice to become a sannyasi and go and not be into any worldly things. And it's somehow revolutionary the way that Krishna puts this connection, like Uriel described it, between true practice and the embracing of the lila, of the game of life, and actually becoming not just an ascetic person that hides away from life or steps away from life, also by changing outer circumstances in order to gain a state of freedom, but a being that will remain free no matter what. True, let's say, for example, real abstinence, real celibacy, supreme celibacy is only reached if you can stay in a state of celibacy while you make love. Only when you come to control yourself perfectly and the game of the senses cannot tempt you anymore into having preferences, are you actually really abstinent. Only then. The supreme asceticism in that way, the supreme renunciation, is a renunciation that happens here now within your heart. It doesn't need any outer change of circumstance. And in Tantra, this is considered actually the highest achievement and what the Tantric continuously seeks for. So when a Tantric goes into retreat, for example, or into a wonderful Karma Yoga weekend in our wonderful communities, then that being will receive a wonderful impulse of renunciation, an impulse of the yogic practice, an impulse of meditation. Even every morning on your yoga mat, you receive an impulse of renunciation. But you only become a tantric when this impulse is brought with you into life. And the practical encouragement that this seeking for the supreme asceticism is sort of asking for, or is offering, is to bring after every practice your state along with you. Also, as you practice, embrace the world, but especially so, bring that state into the world. Make your practice a gift to the world by bringing the results of it along with you. And like this, the path of Tantra only becomes possible. If you think that you can just go around in the world and throw around some spiritual vocabulary, that will not lead you into a state of tantric achievement. If you think you can hide away forever and be forever calm and peaceful and balanced on your yoga mat, but not in the fullness of action, if you cannot detach from your wish to be pleasing to everyone in order to be angry, if you cannot detach from your wish to be angry with everyone in order to be peaceful, then you have not yet achieved the tantric ideal and not yet achieved a state of karma yoga. Krishna gives 3 aspects within this sutra to free ourselves from. So I invite you, as an optional homework, which I always like to throw around, to contemplate your freedom from hatred, violence, anger that has a certain agenda to it. freedom of that. Freedom of expectation, freedom of having a certain desire, a certain preference, a certain agenda, a certain wish that you want things to be. And finally, freedom of duality, freedom of seeing that there's a difference between one and the other, between up and down, between outside, inside, between you and the other person, between you and the world, etc., etc. So practically, you can apply, and I invite you within the next 2 weeks of your Karma Yoga practice to do this deliberately. Seek out and even take moments of pause and remind yourself to let go of all hatred, violence, aversion of things, all expectation, desire, attachment, preference, and finally, even all duality. And with the freedom of these three, you acquire this state of perfect asceticism. So hold these three within your heart, free yourself continuously from aversion, hatred, violence, from expectation, preference, desire, attachment, and from duality in itself. And as the universe wants it, yesterday I opened my favorite book in the whole world, the Gurology, the Greek book that has all the nice quotes from our spiritual guide. And I was asking, like really intensely praying for guidance and opening it up. And it was normally it's like a little paragraph that you get. And this one was like 2 pages of text. And it was describing a state of genius. And he was describing how a state of genius implies that we are able to hold certain states of polarity within our own being, that we allow opposites within our being to unite, which is a pointer towards this freedom from duality that Krishna speaks about. And he talks, for example, about the unification between the left and the right body half, together with the base chakra, Muladhara, and the crown, Sahasrara. And to continuously contemplate throughout the day the polarizing between these two dualities, two contradictions, which actually come together as one whole. And he says what happens is within the center of that, you find what he calls the coincidence of polarities. That point where polarities meet. And that, of course, is the state of non-duality. So as practical modality, if you want to apply, you can continuously focus on, first of all, first step, unify left and right, noticing their difference, not trying to mush them into one gray thing. No, very clear. Left, right, completely different, complete opposites. Unify them in your consciousness. And then the root and the crown, up and down, unifying them into your vision. And then all 4 of them discovering that wonderful non-dual status in your being.
My metaphor was more like you're at home flipping channels and you find the football, or you're watching with a friend and he's watching and he cares. But to put it in life, once this state of preference of this or that disappears, it is only the universal dharma that moves us, or the godly will that moves us. It's very easy. So right now, there is a universal force that's pushing us into our place in the wholeness of the body and the wholeness of the universe. Is continuously bringing us into our place. And together with that universal force, the godly will or the dharma, as you call it, there is also an individual preference which makes noise and doesn't allow, as a Parkinson thing. The universe pushes you in the right place and you shiver. You shiver out of place. So once you stop this and you just, as Ramakrishna says it, a devotee is like a leaf in the wind. Wherever the godly will takes you, there you go. Like a baby cat, he gives another example. When the mother cat puts him on the sofa, he's on the sofa. When puts him on the floor, he's on the floor. So once the preferences disappear, there is this perfect state of surrender, and then the only force that's left is the force that was there all the time, the godly integrated force of dharma, of godly will, that will put us always in place, and you recognize it, yes, so not to confuse it with anything else, you recognize it because you are at utter and total peace.
Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.